So hello, everyone, and good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to another A Lot Smart webinar. Our webinar today is all about network analytics, what it is in our view, and what it can do for you specifically as communication service providers. And I titled it Mining Network Gold because I think, from our experience with networks all around the world and from working with service providers and enterprises for that matter, there's a lot of value that's kind of hidden in the network and in the network traffic. And it's a little bit like, panning, sifting, drilling to find where that actual value is. And to be able to understand it, to correlate it, and so on. And also, no less importantly, to be able to act on it, to turn it from, data into actionable intelligence that helps you at the end of the day, improve your services, the quality of your networks, the performance levels, but also the quality of experience to keep your customers happy on your networks, to differentiate your brand, all of the good things that we're trying to do. So before we jump into the details, just a couple of housekeeping notes. We're going to be talking, as I said, about analytics, about optimization, about quality of experience. And all registrants, all participants in the webinar will receive a copy of our most recent service provider survey that was focused on the topic of quality of experience. And it ties strongly into a lot of the kinds of reports that we're going to share with you today, which are, real reports from real case studies, with the details of the customers obviously hidden, but it's the actual value that's in your networks that we're going to be sharing with you. Just a sample, of course, and the survey report goes into greater detail and uncovers sort of industry attitudes towards quality of experience as we're moving toward 5G. So I think it'll be an interesting addition to this webinar. We encourage questions, and we will hopefully finish in time for some Q&A at the end. If we run out of time or don't get to every question, we will try and get back to you offline. During the course of the presentation, there will be a few poll questions, and I strongly encourage you to participate. Your answers are anonymous, but it helps give us a sense of who you are, maybe to focus a little bit some of our content, but also some of the questions relate to the value that we believe is in the network, and would be helpful for us to see what you feel about it. So again, there will be poll questions throughout the presentation, so I'll be very happy if you can participate. So let's get started. I will start by introducing ourselves. I'm Michael Schachter, and I'm a director of product marketing at A Lot. And for this presentation, because it is very focused, as I said, on real customer inputs, I've brought together some of our experts who actually understand the subject, an AVP from the product side, Moti Goldstein, and an AVP from the global support services side, Tal Berensteig. And they are the people who actually meet with the customers to understand their needs, to design and define and develop the products and solutions that we bring to market. And then Tal at the other end actually sits with the customers to understand their issues and help them get the most value out of these solutions that we've brought to market. And they are going to share their experience with you as we go forward. So that's who we are. And as I said, it's not going to just be, Michael marketing fluff. It's going to be the real stuff from the real world. What I'd like to do is start with a quick poll to understand who you are. And we'll start by asking whether you work for a fixed, mobile, or converged service provider, or perhaps for a company that sells to service providers, or some other kind of company, and that's okay. We have enterprise solutions that are very similar to what you're going to see today, although today's content is mostly or entirely from service provider networks. It's easy to make the analogy to enterprises as well, because enterprises have large data networks, many applications, remote users, and so on, and need to know what's going on in their networks, just like service providers do. So thank you all for answering, and I will end the poll now, and we will see who's out there. This afternoon, nobody who's purely mobile, but a good sprinkling of fixed and converged, making up half the audience, and then a quarter from enterprises that sell to CSPs and a quarter from other enterprises. So it's a good mix, and I think the content will be very relevant. Let's jump in. You know what? One more follow-up question on that. Within your organizations, it would be helpful also to understand where you come from. That's the wrong question. Here it is. So do you work in engineering? Do you work in the marketing function, more on the operations side, perhaps the security side, or something else altogether? So if you could take a couple of seconds to answer this, and then we will share the results and move on. Don't be bashful. There are a few of you who are kind of lurking on the outskirts. Okay, another second or two, and great. So sharing these results. So a lot of you from engineering, and then the rest evenly divided pretty much between marketing, operations, security, and also others. So we need to refine these questions in the future, but I think it's also a good mix based on the content that we're about to share. So we're going to jump in now, and we're going to talk about, first, let me give you an overview. So the introduction is what we're suffering through right now. We'll talk about the need that we believe the industry has, the challenges, and then what I call the sample gold, the actual case studies, the sample reports that will give you a taste of the kinds of value that can be found in these networks, and then a quick summary. And the first question, of course, is what is so valuable about network traffic analytics? And instead of me trying to answer that, I looked on Google and I found a number of interesting quotes. A senior VP from research at Gartner said, it's the information is the oil of the 21st century, and analytics is the combustion engine. So, this is what powers everything, is what he's saying, right? And then somebody else takes it another step, Jeffrey Moore, who wrote the famous Crossing the Chasm book. Without big data analytics, we're blind, right? We're doing something and we don't know what it is we're doing. We don't know how good we're doing. We don't know the impact it has. We don't know how it's being consumed. Again, we're driving blind, right? And finally, Peter Drucker, the management guru, puts it very simply and succinctly: what gets measured gets managed. You can't improve your network performance. You can't improve your quality of experience. You don't know what or where or when to expand capacity if you're not accurately measuring all of these factors. So I think it's pretty clear. I don't think I'm really bringing here anything new, but just to set the stage why analytics are so important. And we believe, from our experience with our customers, that everyone across the CSP and enterprise organization can actually benefit from analyzing what's going on in the network. And that can lead to savings in CapEx, because you might not have to expand your network as quickly, in OpEx because of the operational costs in expanding, in troubleshooting, and so on. All kinds of operational improvements, because when you know what problems are or where they are, you can solve them much more quickly. You can be much more agile in rolling out new services because you understand who your customers are, what they're consuming, when they're consuming, and so on. And with the right data, you can differentiate yourself from the competition because you really understand what's going on in your network, and hopefully better than they understand their own network. And then finally, who benefits? So everybody, right? I mean, you're from the industry, we're from the solution side of the industry. But at the end of the day, we're also all users. We all have our phones and our tablets, and we all want to have the best quality of experience. And so it's a win all across. So the next question really then is, okay, what's the big deal? What's so difficult about network traffic analytics? And especially if I just back up again, you'll see that I called it actionable analytics. So it's not enough to see it and understand it. You want to be able to actually do something as a result of what you see. And so I'll turn it over to Moti, our AVP of products, who will tell us about the difficulties in getting at this
Hi, Michael. Thank you for that. Yeah, basically, one of the items we see as a growing trend in our industry and in the general telco market is the traffic is becoming more and more encrypted. And it's been encrypted end to end from device to the server. And this kind of obscures some of your visibility that we have. And you need to mitigate that and find ways that although traffic is being encrypted and in some cases obfuscated or used through VPNs, so all of these that comes from either hidden or from the need to have privacy to our data, then this causes the visibility and the DPI to miss some of the information pieces that are so valuable. So you need to overcome that by different and let's say very complicated or advanced techniques like adding artificial intelligence and machine learning throughout the entire process, the CI/CD. So this is one of the challenges. Additional challenges comes from the fact that the traffic itself is not generated by a single small amount of application. Though we have endless application, all of us as users, as you rightfully said, we see that every day there's a new application, a new trend coming in, and those applications constantly change their behavior. They, let's say for video application, you see a adaptation of new codecs and they changing the codecs and the amount of connections, and you see that they add adaptive bitrate and how they manage stalls and so on and so forth. So the signatures of the traffic are also constantly changes, and this goes throughout the endless amount of application. And overall, we see an overwhelming and ongoing increase of 20 to 30% year over year in the amount of traffic and a huge variety of it. So this requires to be able to work with big data, and it makes all of this together makes it harder and harder to extract valuable information from the abundance of data that exists there in the system.
Okay, so there's a challenge. The need, I think, is pretty clear, and we've divided the coming presentation into different areas. All of you will see overlap. Network-wide issues, which affect, what you have deployed, where it's deployed, and what you can learn about it. User awareness, which brings another layer of, correlation to the data so that you can focus in on particular user groups and usage patterns and so on. Traffic management, which now takes us to the second piece of this, which has to do with, okay, I've got this data, I've got some insights now. What can I do on the basis of those insights to improve performance, improve quality? And speaking of improving quality, we'll talk about this, but one of the leading areas, certainly for, by volume of data activity, is video streaming. And it's also one of the big kind of bellwether indicators of satisfaction with a service provider. How good is my video quality, either uploading my TikToks or streaming my Netflix or whatever. If it's not good enough, I'll go look for somebody who's better. And then finally, it's a tough market out there. I don't need to tell you that ARPU is a challenge in most of the world, and all-you-can-eat packages make it difficult to generate the revenue. And so once you are generating revenue, you certainly want to protect it. And you want to protect your network and your services, again, to ensure that you get your revenue and you keep your customers. So we're going to look at it from all of these different aspects. And I've got another question to ask you before we dive into this. So let's just take another quick look at a poll. And the question here really is, what is your source, your top source for traffic analytics? Do you get your data from the network equipment provider reports that, the Ericsson, Huawei, and so on give you? Do you have third-party hardware probes deployed in your network? Are you using an independent DPI vendor such as Allot? Or are you getting most of your reports from in-house IT? I think this pretty much covers the range. And I would also, again, point out, in a little piece of advertising that most of these sources are, read-only. They give you the analysis, they give you the insights, and then you've got to find other tools with which to implement the, policy changes to deal with what you've learned. I'll give it another second. I think we're done. Okay. So let's share the results, and we can see that it's a pretty good divide. A third on DPI, a third from the NEPs, and then a quarter or so from in-house, and bringing up the rear, third-party probes. Okay, so let us now jump in to some of these examples, and I will turn now to the topic of network-wide. And this, again, as I said, is the ability to look across your whole network and have an idea of what is going on there. So I'm going to turn this over now to Tal, who is from our customer services and really experiences on a daily basis what our customers are using these tools, our tools, to extract. So Tal, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. So we built this next few slides from kind of top and drilling further down into the real-time network insights. The key benefits of those insights is merely to give you better understanding of the network behavior and especially on the network performance. So we are looking into different real-time performance indicators as as presented here, like real-time bandwidth of the overall network, the round trip time, the RTT, which are very important indicators when you want to understand the actual performance. And we are giving another subset of drill down looking at the top applications on real-time basis. Such type of analytics may be perceived as basic, but they are very much important overall for different groups with CSPs or enterprises to troubleshoot problems. And I have to say, even to be able to overcome problems before they become critical. So those indicators are very, very much important, although they may be perceived as as basic stuff. So we're targeting this to different groups within those organizations, like planning to operation. Running such reports, such insights will be very much helpful for them to prevent any churn or to make sure that the quality of experience for the subscribers will be to the level that they aim for. And of course, with the further drills to other analytics, as such as the cell usage, they can, of course, take more important decisions. So thank you, Michael, for moving ahead. When we are talking about the cell usage, I kind of like this. It gives, first and foremost, a broad understanding of the top cells usage over a week period. And when you look at the cells usage, we can then drill into the distribution of the different applications that are heavily being used on those specific cells. And from that, we can drill further down into service plans that are being suggested to the consumers or to the subscribers on that networks. So at the end of the day, this actually helps the communication service providers to optimize their network. The specific analytic that we are showing here is of a selected cell. Once you drill into that, you get further information, and correlated with our other, of course, analytics insights. Then they can take the decision on what they want to optimize. Maybe they want to change anything related to their radio access network, and of course provide their subscribers with a relevant or optimum quality of experience. So at the end of the day, this will increase the customer satisfaction for the planning groups and the operations, as well as may prevent them from churn.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Moving on to the next usage trend insights. I really like this analytics, or specifically those insights. Here, what you can see is a distribution of the trend usage. So basically, we see overlaying one on top of the other every day, the network usage itself divided by the hours. So first and foremost, you can do a great comparison, right? You can actually understand how your network behaves on a daily basis compared to different days of the week. And then, of course, compare the weekdays with the weekends. On top of that, what you can actually realize from such analysis is the prediction of your busy hour, or you can actually understand what's your busy hour. And of course, you can see what's the relevant busy hour per the day of the week. So overall, it can actually help you to do some predictions for the capacity utilization of your network, which is something very important for planning groups or operation groups. Once you actually select any hour or any dot here on the left part of the screen, then you can actually drill down to the top applications usage on that specific hour. And then it allows you to understand some insights regarding your subscribers' usage, because you understand what type of application they use during the day of the week, and again, compare it with other days. So this can be also a benefit for the marketing team, just to take a decision. Maybe they want to do something like happy hour for a certain application, or any other means of advertising, and then increasing the revenue. When we're talking about the application quality of experience, that's an additional view, or an additional analytics and insights that we provide. So here, from the way that we are presenting the information is first and foremost taking from the application group. So we have a set of application groups, could be gaming, could be streaming. You get fair amount of information here on the quality of experience for those specific application groups. And here in this example, we selected the streaming, and you can see a very nice view of the score per application. You can understand the unique users count per the hour, as well as how it's correlating with the bandwidth. And we're adding additional analytics like the RTT in and out, that you can fairly understand if there are maybe optimization needed on your network, because it's very much important, of course, to understand this. Again, such insights can contribute quite a lot to the planning and operations team, and at the end of the day, as we mentioned a few times, contribute to the customer satisfaction.
Okay, so we started at the network level, and we looked kind of overall, and we started at the end to sort of shift down to usage or user patterns. Yeah. There's a lot of insight there. Before we jump into that, I wanted to ask you all, you've heard one topic, but what's your feeling about which type of insights or area will bring the most value to you as a service provider, or as a customer? What would you imagine that the service provider would most want to know about? User-wide, network-wide, specific user awareness, traffic management, how video QoE is being perceived in the network, or perhaps network and revenue protection. So these are, they're interrelated. It's a little bit, artificial to divide them up, but I think it's an interesting question to ask. So we'll give you just another moment here. Okay, thank you very much. And here are the results. Pretty evenly distributed, from 12 up to 28%, but network-wide traffic leads the way. And then traffic management is second, and that's perhaps, again, reflecting the importance of being able to do something about what you've learned through all of these other methods. So there's a little bit of overlap here, but thank you. And now we will drill into what we mean when we talk about user awareness. So back to you, Tal.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. So when we're talking about applications or top applications usage, what I love about this, it's an analysis that provides you 4 pillars comparing and looking at the total volume per application with the percentage of how this contributes to the overall network usage. So the importance of this analytics and insights is that we are comparing those applications on a network-wide distribution with different dimensions. So you can actually see the total bandwidth as well as the unique subscribers count. So just for an example, what's interesting to see here, you can look at Netflix, where you see quite an extensive usage of the network itself, right? The total volume is high, and the percentage of the total volume is as well high. But when you look at the unique users count, it's not that heavy. So if you compare this, let's say with Instagram, you can see that on Instagram, it's fairly the same amount of volume. But when you look at the unique subscribers, the count of the subscribers that actually use this specific application, it becomes quite extensive. So those insights allows, again, different engineers or different groups within the organization to take the correct decisions. And this is targeted mainly for marketing, where they can accurately take decisions based on the consumers or subscribers' behavior using such insights. And again, maybe decide on a certain service plan price or suggest a bundle or any other means of advertisements or marketing campaigns to allow to gain more revenues. This is something which is very similar to what we saw just now. The only major difference from the previous slide is the distribution by groups. So here, instead of looking at the network-wide and then how the applications are divided through the entire network, what you see here is first and foremost the application groups. Again, it could be streaming, it could be web-based, it could be gaming, etc. And then we can drill down from a specific group and then understand how the trend of the usage is being used over your network. So we get the top applications per specific group. Here we selected again the streaming applications, and then we see the unique users usage. So very much similar to what we saw before, but it can still provide further further insights to the marketing team on how they want to go ahead with the different campaigns maybe.
Okay, let's take another one. One moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. That's another insight that I really like. First and foremost, you want to understand, who's actually using your network. So with this, we're going up to the level or down to the level of the actual subscriber. So here on the left, what you see is we identify who are my heavy users. I want to see who really takes out of my network so much. I get here the top, the top subscribers that use my network. And then once I get this list, I can drill down to each and every one of them. And on the right side of the screen, I can understand better or get better insights on them, like, again, which are the applications that are being used on that specific volume or extended volume that they are taking. And also, when we're talking about the applications, we can actually see the drill into the daily usage. So then we can understand maybe over weekends, those specific users are using more peer-to-peer applications. And when we're talking about weekdays, maybe they're using streaming applications. Again, this can contribute a lot to two things. This can help to develop some strategy, how we want to manage the heavy users, maybe to enforce some policies, maybe to decide to restrict some of the bandwidth, or we can provide, better fairness to other users by using such policies or enabling other policies. On top of that, of course, it can help the marketing, again, to derive maybe special campaigns to those, or let's say to that specific market.
Okay, thank you, Tal. So we've looked now at the network, and we've looked at correlating in a degree of user awareness, even down to the level of heavy users. I'd like to ask another question, and then that will be the last poll question until very near the end. And this question is, in your organization, how do you tend to use analytics? Whatever type of analytics you have, is it kind of an after the fact, let's see what was going on? Is it used in real time? Is it both real time and after the fact? Or are you the rare organization that doesn't actually use network traffic analytics at all? And we'll go through here quickly. Okay, not surprising. It's mostly both real time and after the fact. So that's maybe a self-evident one, but I just wanted to be sure. And now we will drill down into traffic management. And again, let me point out that as a DPI company, we see this as very important, because not only do we help bring you some of these heavily correlated insights, but we also then help you implement the changes, and that can even be automatically in real time, depending on the scenario, to better manage your network based on those measurements and thresholds. And I'll let Moti take us through.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for that. That's, I think, one of the main important concepts is that you want those analytics to be actionable, so you'll be able to do something about it. So taking what Tal was just mentioning about what is going on a network perspective, and then combining it with what is going on a per user and applications which are applicable for both, you want to be able to do something about it. For example, one of the basic things is to look at your network, to overlay data of traffic, either by volume or active subscribers, to lay it over day by day according to the hours, and analyze where are your peak hours. Because during the peak hours, you would really like to do something in the networks, but maybe you'd like to have a policy which is different or triggered according to a specific hour. For example, you'd like it to start at, we put here some example, maybe you'd like to start it at 9 until 7 p.m., and to have one policy in a different place, you'd like to only from 9 p.m. to midnight or something like that. And we have those capability to take the policy and to trigger it per time of day. And you can do it on a network level, and I will show you an example for that in the next slide. Or you can do it on a per subscriber level, which is the following slide. And actually you can combine the two in a kind of orthogonal policies, which are also a part of the things you would like to do with your data. You also would like to look at the application at the peak hour, and then to see which are the main application and do something about it if you feel that there is contention or you see problems with the QoE, because maybe YouTube and Facebook are consuming most of your data and they're using your backhaul and international. So perhaps a good advice would be to take and put a local CDN to ease on that, and to have a lower response time and to have a better QoE for your customer. Maybe you'd like to have some differential marketing offering for subscribers, which you know that are heavily watching videos online, and so maybe they need HD video packages and things like that. Okay, so let's go and start with a very, I would say, interesting example of what happens when you unlock DPI. Meaning, in this example, we had a customer that is using currently traffic shaping on a network wide, meaning in each site they limit the gaming traffic to a certain amount. And by gaming, I mean not the actual online game, but the downloads of data, of let's say updates for the games like Sony PlayStation Store, Fortnite updates, and so on. Now, those updates are rather heavy. For example, Fortnite, every 2 weeks, deliver an update which weight from 1 to 5 gigabytes of data per user, depending on the platform. So we did here a trial in which we opened up, let's say, disabled the DPI, and we had a site with 5 devices inside. And here what Michael showed you, the first, let's say, step is when you disable the first device, and then we disable the additional 4. You see a huge jump in traffic. What you see here on the blue line is the total traffic in the site. So you can see that it roughly goes from the average of 200 to 250 gigabit per second to 350 and beyond. It's a huge spike in traffic, just mostly associated with gaming line 1, which I can tell you is it's Fortnite. Okay, Fortnite have released an update that day in the morning. You see the huge dump. Now, what is happening is that all the consoles and all the handheld devices and PCs and tablets, they automatically start to download the update, and they do it in the background. Users are not much aware of that, and they really, in most of the cases, what we realize, they do not really care if it takes 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes to download. But if you do not control the traffic, it's a huge spike in traffic. And if you can see below in the red line, this is the total traffic without the gaming. So this is just, regular people browsing, watching Netflix and so on. And you can see when it's controlled, the difference between the gaming and the total is exactly as it's planned. And you see it's a very fixed value. And when it's uncontrolled, even in the steady state, all the way to the right, Michael, you can see that the margin is like 3 to 4 times bigger, okay? And this traffic is being generated by a very small amount of users. If you can see the horizontal lines there, the orange and the reddish type, you can see the total subscribers and then the total subscribers excluding gaming. So it's the difference is the amount of gamers, right? So it's a very small amount of traffic of subscribers that generate a huge amount of traffic. So if you are able to understand the traffic pattern in your network and to put the correct shaping value for this specific line, in different networks could be others, you can really control your network, assure that the overall traffic in your network is being distributed evenly and in a proper way without damaging the quality of experience for all the users in the network. So this is, let's say, a network-wide example or a per site example. Another example I will show you in the next one is for a mobile operator. The previous one was for fixed, although it's rather the same for mobile. But here what we saw is that since the trend of traffic is an ongoing increase, but the applications, some of them are latency sensitive, the others are less, and they are more managed. And since the traffic always increases, at a certain point, the mobile network operator needs to upgrade the network and to add more resources, more spectrum, more sites. And this is a very costly and with a long time to market process. You need to plan it in advance. A complex one, we are aware of that. And what we realized that since all of this is happening in the peak hours, if you are able to apply a policy on a per subscriber level and to allow enough margin for the latency sensitive application in which the users are sensitive with their perceived quality of experience, and control the traffic of other applications which are less critical for the experience, like, I don't know, background, peer-to-peer application, download of software updates. And we analyzed with the nice tool that Tal actually showed you before, some of them. You analyze, you build a policy and actually combine the ability of analytics with policy. We have the ability to get policy from, let's say, a TCRF or other means, and apply it on a per subscriber level. You are able to free up a lot of resources, actually allow the operator to add like 9% more subscribers, reduce the total volume, and improve the latency. And on top of all of that, you can actually save a huge amount of traffic because you do not need to upgrade at this point, but much later in time. So, and you do it constantly. So overall, you save on an yearly basis roughly 9% of your CapEx and OpEx cost, which is a huge amount for mobile operator. So the planning and the operations can really benefit from it and have a more cost-effective solution without, or actually improving the quality of experience for your customer. And I think it's a very interesting example and a real life example.
Okay, so we talked about video over and over, and that's because it's a dominant part of the traffic and it's growing all the time. And we're all big consumers, right? YouTube, Netflix, TikTok, and so on. And so that's a place where we believe, despite its difficulties and its challenges, there's a lot of benefit, a lot of bang for the buck. So Moti, let's dive into video.
Yeah, exactly so. So video is now constantly growing, is a dominant part of the network, both in volume and sessions, and also in the experience of the users. All of us are users, so we know it. And so we added, and video is becoming more and more encrypted, end-to-end encrypted, but we were able to provide encrypted video QoE KPIs, and actually to be able to provide it on a per event basis to our customers. And these are some of exemplary analysis that can be done over this, I would say, gold bits of data. And here we see an example when we took YouTube and we took the busy hour and we looked on what is the resolution spread or the resolution distribution across different network segments. Each one of these lines is actually a cell in a mobile network. It can be a BNG or DSLAM in a fixed wireline or any network unit for that matter. And you can see the different types. And as an operator or as a planner, you can look at your network and understand where or which cells, if you take the mobile network operator example, which cells actually function well on the, let's say, on the left side. You see those cells which have a very low relative part of low resolution and a high relative part of high resolution, HD, which are functioning well. And on the right, you see those cells which have a substantial amount of low resolution video events there and only a smaller amount of HD. So when you look at it, you can really see where are your hotspots, where is the places where you need to invest or to define a certain policy and to do something about it in order for your customer to benefit out of it. And this can be done for YouTube, for Netflix, for Amazon Prime, Facebook video, and so on. But you may also want to look from the customer perspective. You see, we have a lot of dimensions in the network. And from the customer perspective, you'd like to understand which of your customers can actually use HD and which are the dominant devices in your network. So, same data, you cross-correlate that with the subscriber analytics that we have in the network. And here, we showed the top 200 devices in the network and what is the distribution of resolution over those devices. So here each line is not a cell but rather a device. So it's a distribution of YouTube events across the devices. And you can see on the left side, the devices which are with very, let's say, they can use high resolution, they have HD, and very small amount of low resolution. And on the right side, you see a bunch of devices that have a relatively large amount of low resolution. Now, if you correlate this with the users, which Tal showed you before, and search for those bunch of profile of users which are using, they're watching a lot of videos, either a lot of events or a large amount of volume, but still see a relatively low resolution, you may want to offer them a bigger screen device with better resolution because they're watching a lot of video. Maybe they can gain something out of it, and you as an operator can monetize out of it and improve your top line, bottom line, and your performance figures. Maybe you'd like to offer for those that have a good resolution, bigger packages so they can benefit more from the network, and so on and so forth. A lot of gold hidden inside with one of the most, I would say, important application and QoE sensitive one in the network. Furthermore, you may want to look at your data from the perspective of how many watches I have in the network, meaning if you look at the right side, I see the daily video watches per subscriber, okay? And on the left side, I can see how many events are, what is the length of these events. Now, a quick intro on what we see here in the plot. This plot bar is actually representing the distribution in a different mean. So the top and bottom lines represent the 5 and 95 percentile of the data. The colored box of the box plot show you the 25 and 75 percentile, and the mid bar is the median. Okay, so you can really see the distribution of the data of different types of OTT providers. And as expected, we can see that in this example, Facebook video has a huge amount of watches. You can see the distribution very large. People are watching between, let's say, 5 to 15 times a day videos and so on per subscriber. But the overall time that they spend over Facebook is rather low. Okay, so a lot of traffic, but low usage. On the other hand, you can see the reverse image in Netflix, less amount of watches, but each one of them is bigger. And this is expected. Usually in Netflix, you see a movie, you see maybe a binge of a series. So you're watching like 1, 2, 3 hours continuously, and you can understand that. And from that, extract information for your planning, your network planning, which application are actually, for example, here you see YouTube, a lot of watches, a lot of time, very dominant application. You may want to verify that the queue here is perfect and you have local CDNs and so on. But you may also look at it from the marketing perspective and see if you can have a dedicated packages or differential offering or application-based charging and so on. Skies are the limit with these goals of data.
Okay, so thank you, Moti and Tal. I'm going to come back to both of you now. A slightly different way of looking at the network and the services is around protecting both the network as a resource and as a means to providing the service, and also making sure that revenue opportunities are not being abused or lost to you because of abusive usage. So these are just a few examples of a huge field, but we thought it was worth adding this additional perspective. So tethering, I think, is Moti, right?
Yeah, tethering is a very interesting application, and we see a growing demand for tethering detection to begin with, and later for enforcement or monetizing out of tethering. As in many cases, the tethering, as traffic speeds for mobile networks increase and the packages increase, we see people start to, or let's say unlimited packages over as well, people start abusing and using their mobile device as a hotspot. And this can really cannibalize business and also create let's say an uneven and unfair situation in the network in which one user is actually abusing the network resources. And you may want to at least understand it, to have visibility to it, and maybe control and manage it. And we actually have a very long roadmap on how to further improve and add more capabilities to it, so that our customers will be able to understand the traffic, which traffic is being tethered, and what to do with that in the network, either to control it or to monetize from it.
Okay, so tethering is certainly an area where we can lose revenue if we're not careful. What about VPNs, Tal?
Yeah, so being in essence a DPI company where we actually see the entire traffic and are capable of understanding that, so we can monitor our VPN applications and provide insights to our customers at the end of the day to prevent them from revenue leakage or to identify different fraud activities. So in these examples, we basically give you some insights that we can drill into specific VPN applications, and out of that, we can even drill further to the exact subscribers using those VPN application, which can trigger further analysis. Such use case we've seen in the past, that we observed a free of charge application being used all together with some VPN, and then there was a revenue leakage for one of our customers. So this is really an additional insight that we want to provide and we are able to provide, which are very much important for revenue assurance, of course.
Okay, and VPNs are notoriously tricky because they are aware that they're being watched, and so they're constantly changing their appearance. So that's more mining difficulties for the prospectors. Exactly. Okay, and from another angle, let's talk a little bit, if you will, about DDoS mitigation.
Yeah. So on top of what I just described, and again, the fact that we are a DPI company, we have the ability to provide protections for distributed denial of service attacks generally. So we have a very sophisticated, and on top of that, analytics that we can provide, very sophisticated sampling rate, which will allow us to do quick detection. With those detections, we can provide packet captures analysis to understand the top targets or who are most of the targets in your network, to prominent the attack vectors themselves. And this gives an out-of-the-box, in-depth quantitative analysis or quantitative DDoS attacks analysis. So with different configuration of thresholds, we can fairly protect your network for inbound and outbound, of course, DDoS attacks. This will be primarily used by SOC teams in such communication service providers, or by IT networking teams. So at the end of the day, they can protect the biggest asset, which are the network itself, and to be used properly.
And I think, I've heard from some of our engineers that in virtually every network that we have worked with, there's 10, 15, 20% of traffic that is actually being lost to under the radar DDoS. And that was also confirmed by a survey that we did, in the survey that you'll get the results from. So you're losing actual resource capacity, forcing you to expand faster than you actually need to, because you're not filtering out this background, garbage traffic. And you might not even be the target, you might just be the conduit to a target, behind your network.
Yeah,
so something to keep in mind. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of different types of analysis, and barely scratched the surface. One last question, and then we'll summarize today's presentation. And it's kind of going back to some of the stuff we asked you before, but what kinds of correlations, having heard this presentation now, perhaps, do you think would add the most value? And these are just, a limited number, but is it correlating applications and demographics? Is it correlating the device use with the topology and geography, so sort of more hardware oriented? Is it more of a time-based correlation that you think will give you value? Or the kinds of threat detections and mitigations that we just talked about in terms of, abuse or threat, actual attacks on your network? Where do you think you'd get the most correlated value? Give it another second, and let's see what we think. Okay, interesting results. Nobody thought it was fraud or device topology geography correlation, but certainly detecting and mitigating threats was the leading value cause here, and time of day and application usage and demographics. And I think there are no wrong answers here. There's a lot of value. That was the premise here, and there is a lot that you can learn by digging into your networks. And so I think that brings us to the end of sort of the case studies. I'd like to just share what we feel is our kind of unique multi-dimensional proposition, and it's come up a couple of times, but because we've got this deep granular detection and we specialize in this, we can really help you see all of the kinds of traffic that you're experiencing, even though things are changing all the time. There was a question about how often we update, and it's every 2 weeks you get new signature packs. We can help you overcome the evasive techniques that are going on out there using, as Moti said, machine learning and AI to overcome encryption, obfuscation, VPN attempts to hide themselves. All of these different correlations, and they're all valuable, but you need to have this deep, visibility, and then the sort of, brains behind it to correlate and to get the meaningful insights. And then, of course, the scale that Moti mentioned, the growing numbers of applications, amount of data, types of VPNs, on and on and on. Pulling all of this together, in turning it into actionable intelligence with the other side, right? I said there are a number of read-only solutions, but we combine it with the ability to then configure and implement new policies or threshold-based policies that actually give you a kind of automated closed-loop solution that reacts to the traffic and helps you maintain or sustain optimal performance, and therefore optimal quality of experience. And so if I can just summarize, as I said, there's a wealth of data, there's gold in them there are hills. Your network is full of really valuable information, but it's increasingly difficult to mine it. And we believe that you need, specialized tools to do it. And that's not enough because it's also complicated to analyze. And so all of these different correlations are important to get the most value out of what you can actually mine from the network. And then, of course, it's still tricky to act upon that. So the policies, the integrations, the correlations, and so on, the closing of the loop, the automation is what gives it even extra power. And at the end of the day, if you can do all of these things, then you've got this superior and secure services. You've differentiated your brand and you've kept your customers satisfied. And that's kind of what's behind our C-Control Secure logo, is because if you can see it, and going back to that early quote, if you can measure it, then you can do something about it, right? You can manage it, you can control it. And of course, security is a whole nother topic. So I hope this has been a valuable presentation. keep in touch, stay tuned. If you've got more questions that we haven't answered, we will try and answer them offline. We're pretty much out of time now, but there is a question here about ROI. We'll take it offline, but I think it should have been clear, and we will make it clear where the ROI comes from. One example Moti touched on, and Tal did as well, is that you can defer some of your network expansion. Saving 10% capacity a year, turn that into 10% of your network expansion costs, and the ROI becomes clear. So thank you very much. We will be sending you the QoE survey report, and we look forward to seeing you in subsequent webinars where we will be talking more about security. We will be talking about congestion management, about 5G aspects. Thank you again. Thank you, Tal. Thank you, Moti, and have a good day. Everyone, stay safe out there. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.